This is Join Us in France, episode 498, 498. Bonjour, I'm Annie Sargent, and Join Us in France is the podcast where we take a conversational journey through the beauty, culture, and flavors of France. Today, I bring you the big Bootcamp 2024 episode with lots of bootcampers sharing their experiences. And this episode is going to run long because bootcampers had lots to say, and also there are some news to be discussed. This podcast is supported by donors and listeners who buy my tours and services, including my itinerary consult service, my GPS self-guided tours of Paris on the Voice Map app, or take a day trip with me around the Southwest in my electric car. You can browse all of that at my boutique, joinusinfrance.com/boutique. Patreon supporters get new episodes as soon as they are ready and ads free. If that sounds good to you, be like them. Follow the link in the show notes. For the magazine part of the podcast, after my chats with bootcampers, I'll discuss the snap election announced by Emmanuel Macron on Sunday night when he learned that his party lost badly in the European elections to the Rassemblement National party, which is led by Marine Le Pen. Bonjour, Ashley and Brian, and welcome to the show.
Thank you.
All right, Ashley, why don't you introduce yourself first?
My name is Ashley Holm, and I am from Kansas, and I am a beginner in the French language.
And this is not your first time in France, though.
This is not my first time.
How many times would you say?
I counted, and this is number 8.
Wow. Okay, we have a definite Francophile over here. How about you, Brian?
Another Francophile. Yes.
Okay.
I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, Brian Tollison. And I don't know, I stopped counting. I'm over 20, maybe over 30 times.
So why did you decide to come to the bootcamp?
You know, I've adored the podcast. You and Elise were like Reese to me. And I just really wanted to see what it was like to check out Toulouse, because I've also never been to Toulouse. And I adore the city. I mean, it's sort of like a little baby Paris. I love the city.
Yeah, it's been very nice. So we've kind of lucked out on the weather, but it's still cooler than normal and wetter than normal this May, but it's worked out, right?
Yeah, to me it's been perfect.
Yeah. So was this your first time in Toulouse as well?
It was my first time, but I've been so curious about Toulouse for the past few years when I've listened to the podcast, and I thought, well, if everybody's like Elise and Annie, I can't go wrong.
Did you meet anybody who was not friendly?
No.
Not yet?
No, not yet.
Perhaps you won't. It's pretty unusual. Most people here are not, we're laid back. We're laid back monkeys. All right, so far, what has been your favorite activity that we did on this tour? We're 2 days shy of the end, so who knows? You might prefer the others, but what do you think?
I particularly loved our first big trip to Albi, and it had some beautiful gardens, it had a beautiful castle, some beautiful architecture around town, and a wonderful museum. It just had everything you could want in a small village.
Yeah, Albi is surprising because it's small but has so much. I think it's a beautiful place. How about you, Brian?
I think it's a mix between Albi, which was just fantastic, and then CCC, which is just a beautiful church. But also yesterday, when we were just in the countryside and, someone's herding sheep just, right in front of you. It couldn't have been more picturesque and a more beautiful day. And I love being outside and just being able to walk along sort of country road through the village. It was spectacular.
Yeah, so it's interesting because on this tour, we're going to do some very touristy things, like Carcassonne is very touristy. But we're also taking you to places where most visitors don't come. And that was Saint-Bertrand-de-Comminges. We've done an episode about it, so people talked about it, obviously. But like you said, there was sheep and cows and a sheepdog and people stopping in the middle of the street to chat and all of that stuff.
And all of us with our little bird ID, on our phones out. Just because we heard so many birds. I mean, in the packed tourist places, you don't hear the birds.
Right. Yeah, we got out of the bus in Saint-Bertrand-de-Comminges and birds. I saw you were using the Merlin app and I was doing the same thing. I'm like, oh, that's funny. We're both thinking the same thing. And Elise was talking But I don't think anybody heard what she had to say about sa mère femme de ménage because everybody was paying attention to either the bird or the sheep. So, but that's okay. They also gave us a booklet and stuff. All right. So, is there anything that happened that you're not so happy about? Things that you wish had been different, perhaps?
I mean, it was sort of a personal choice for me. If I had it to do over again, I would not stay right in the city center where I'm staying. I'm staying right in Plaza Wilson. I was like, oh, I want to be a 2-minute walk to the bus. I want to be a 2-minute walk to the class. But that's also a 1-minute walk from the bars, in the middle of the night. So it's a little bit noisy right where I am staying.
Yeah.
So I know a couple of other people stayed, a few blocks off of the main squares and on the main square. That would just be my recommendation is just, if you find an Airbnb, just make sure it's not on a big place because it's also where all of the bars are.
Yes.
Until 3 a.m. drinking and, carousing and keeping you.
Yes, that would be a problem for me as well. Or if it's an Airbnb where they tell you the windows face in the inside courtyard, that's completely different. But if your windows face towards the big plaza, then, yeah. How about you?
Well, I wish I had come in earlier because a lot of the group had planned ahead of time to go on a bike ride down the Canal du Midi. And I think they had a really beautiful tour, and I wish I would have seen that.
Yeah. So yes, this is another thing that you can do if you come to Toulouse. You probably won't come back a million times, is stay a few days. This is the sort of place where you can spend, I don't know, on your own, probably 3-4 days and find things to do.
That's so weird, but that's exactly what I did, and I'm so glad I did.
Yeah.
Because I really felt grounded when the boot camp actually started, because I already sort of had my footing and, I think it would be difficult to walk in, step into the tour without having some grounding. And we had managed to go see the Cafar exhibit before, and I think that gave us some background, because I didn't even know the whole human rights sort of, exploitation in the people of the region, labeling them kind of like just having that whole background would gave me a lot of
That's great. That's wonderful. Yeah, had you done other tours before, or was this your first time with a group like this? Let me ask Ashley first.
I have only taken one other group tour, and it was because of OFAC regulations in Cuba. So this is not my preferred way to travel, but it was really wonderful. I think you were great tour guides, and I didn't mind riding around in the big bus. It got us to where we needed to go.
Yeah.
And I would do it again.
Yeah, a bus is a really efficient way to go. It's not ideal, but we don't usually spend that much time in the bus. Did you ever feel like, oh my God, I need to get out of this bus?
Well, I never thought that.
Yeah.
And I think because we all have an affinity for the podcast, we all sort of have some commonalities that made us go well together. I've never done a group tour before ever, and I don't think I ever will, because I don't, I think there was a selection factor that happened by us all having the same affinity for the same things in the podcast.
Yeah, it's definitely a self-selecting kind of group. If you don't like the kind of cultural and historical and our style, I guess, then you're not going to come. You're not going to keep listening to the podcast. And so have you made some friends on this tour?
I have. Yeah, I've met some people that I think I'll stay in touch with.
Yeah.
I'm really pleased about that.
Are they mostly about your age, about your...
No, they're much older, but it's fun. We have a lot of commonalities.
Yeah. How about you, Brian?
I was saying, in fact, some people are meeting me here to go do some new friends.
Yes. No, I think that's one of the things that I like the best is, some of the people from the bootcamp last year reach out to me, ask me questions, ask me for some advice, and it's wonderful. And sometimes they're surprised that I remember them. So I'll tell you what, I'm not very good with faces, with names. Ashley, actually, you told me off because I couldn't remember your name at one point, which is fair.
Yeah, it worked.
Yeah, but it worked. Now I'm not going to forget Ashley or Brian. But even years later, if you tell me I was in the boot camp, of course I'm going to remember you. That's just... And I have people who've done tours with us years ago, back when we started the very beginning with Elise, where it was teeny tours with 3 people. And of course, when they reach out to me, I remember them. Of course, yeah, that's how it works.
The group of people is, I think, what has made it most enjoyable. There's a bunch of people, like you said, who self-select in common interests and common perspective. Even though people have different things they're very passionate about.
Right. Right. And professionally, we have a little bit of everything. Like Ashley, you're a lawyer, you're a consultant in
public health and social justice.
There you go. There you go. So very different people. We have some retired people. We don't have any musicians this year, I don't think. We'll test it. Tomorrow, we will do a sing-along in the bus. I have prepared a few songs.
Bus karaoke is happening.
We have a horticulturalist.
Who?
Yeah, Wendy.
Wendy. Oh, very nice. Very nice. Yeah, I haven't had a chance to talk with everybody. And the reality is, at the end of the day, when we get home on the bus, my voice is usually shot. I'm like, I got to sit here and be quiet for a minute because it's hard for me to talk all day. It really is. I'm not used to this. I'm usually by myself in my office. So anything you want to tell everybody about the boot camp? If people are considering doing it, what are some things? It's not good for what reason?
I think some of the things that I thought for the wine tasting, I don't drink. So I thought, I'm going to feel pressure to go. But it's very casual. I mean, it's sort of like I said, I'm not going to go wine tasting. Everybody's like, okay, I'll miss you and see you later.
Yeah.
You can sort of dip in and dip out. It's not sort of overly structured. It's not, you don't feel pressure to like get on the bus. Obviously we have to meet the bus at the way down. But, if you're not going, you're not going.
Oh, yeah. This is a very important point, as a matter of fact. We're all adults, so I'm not worried about, if I take 35 people in the bus leaving, I make sure I have 35 people coming back, But besides that, I'm really not worried about it. It's nice if you let me know so we don't wait for people who are never going to show up, but not a huge deal. So I think there is a lot of flexibility and a lot of, we're all grown-ups. We do what works for us. And some people have gotten sick. Some people have taken time off, which is great. It's not a problem.
And I think that we haven't been overly scheduled. It's been a very comfortable pace and a very comfortable amount of time together and apart. So I think it was planned very well that way.
Wonderful. Yes, and this afternoon we're going to have the Olympic flame coming through to Toulouse.
There are men with shotguns out there.
There's a lot of security, yeah. A lot of security going on. Obviously, I saw some police right outside of the post office. Somebody had left a stack of cardboard boxes. And he was like, okay, get somebody come and clear that because we can't have stacks of anything. It makes sense. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much for talking to me. I think we're going to move with the next group. They've all arrived. So, merci beaucoup.
Merci.
We'll see you soon tomorrow or perhaps later today. Merci. Bonjour, Jay and Wendy. Why don't you introduce yourselves a little bit? Ladies first. Wendy.
Wendy Jib. I come from USA, New York City, and I love to travel.
Wonderful.
Yes, and I really enjoy coming to France often. I've had relatives living here who are now all gone, but I still have some old friends in Paris, and we come often.
Uh-huh. And so you've been to France, 10 times, 20 times? Have you counted?
More.
More than that?
Yes,
okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Since I was 20,
Wow.
a zillion times.
Yes.
Incountable.
Yes, that's wonderful. And Jay, you're the youngest person in this boot camp?
I think so, yeah.
Go ahead, introduce yourself.
My name is Jay, and I come from California, from the Bay Area, south of San Francisco, and this is my second time in France. And I'm really enjoying it, and hopefully this is one of many more times I can come.
That's wonderful. So both of you are not taking the language classes.
No.
So tell me about what that's like.
Well, for me, I've been around a long time, and I know what my limitations in the French language are. You're just finding out, Jay, that, I've gone about as far as I can go. I can get along.
Everyday things you can do.
Yes, I can.
Right.
But I really enjoy walking. This is such a beautiful city and so interesting and so different than anything I've ever seen.
Is that right?
So it makes it very interesting. Like yesterday, I always get lost. And I know that these cities actually were planned so that when invaders came, they would get lost. I'm an invader and I get lost every time. Oh, dear. So yesterday, I ended up trying to go to the Japanese garden. And I finally ran into the ramparts, which were magnificent. I didn't even take a picture because I was trying to get to the Japanese garden,
Yeah.
So it was sad, but at any rate, they were beautiful to see.
Yeah. So this was your first time in Toulouse of all these many times in France.
Actually, I've been to the Toulouse airport several times.
Oh, right. Well, but the airport doesn't really count, does it?
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I had a mother-in-law who, at one point, we went to Vaison-la-Romaine.
Yes.
Yes. And stayed in a wonderful old, sort of falling down castle in the middle of town. And she always was rebuilding a house somewhere in the countryside.
Oh, I see.
Yes, so we didn't stay with her because she must have been in the process of rebuilding.
Right. And what about you, Jay? So this was your second time in Toulouse, right?
Yes.
All right. So what brings you to Toulouse? Like, why do you like this area so much?
The first time I came was a few years back. I was in college, and my senior year of high school, there wasn't enough students interested in coming to France. So unfortunately, I didn't get the chance to come senior year. It would be 2 years later in 2016 when my sister was in the high school French class. And through my sister, my old French teacher got in touch with me. She said, hey, you're still considered by your age a student. Would you still be interested in coming to Toulouse and spending a week with a French family? And I said, yes. I jumped on board. I spent 1 week here in Toulouse with the family. I loved it. It was always a small group of us going to different places. Ended up going to Carcassonne. Yeah. So I know we haven't gone yet, but I'm looking forward to that as well.
Yeah, for sure.
I purposely have not purchased things to buy those things in Carcassonne when we get there. But I love Toulouse. It's a really walkable city. I like the buildings. For it to be a city, at least here, it doesn't feel suffocating compared to other cities. San Francisco and San Jose are the cities that are near me. And just driving by them, you see the tall buildings and you think, I'm going to get lost. But here, I think if you get lost, it's a fun adventure, at least because everything might be more colorful. But I love how walkable everything is. The public transportation here is great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
That's great.
And I'm having a good time just walking around in the mornings, taking pictures.
Right.
A couple of days ago, I walked towards the river. And on the way there, I bumped into 3 different pastry shops.
Oh, wow.
And I just told myself I have to come back and try from each of them at some point. And I just love how there's so much variety everywhere.
Right. Wendy, one of the things I wanted to ask you about is you've taken a lot of these organized tours, and I knew that you, Jay, you would like to work in tourism as well.
Yes.
So I would like to get your feedback about how this organized tour is different from others you've taken. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Very. Well, I guess I was unprepared to be so free. But then, of course, I had 3 days that I had to go and figure out what to wear since I didn't get my bag.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you started out, your bag got lost.
This was a problem. I think that actually I would have really appreciated some ideas like where to go at nighttime, like just to hear music or singing, like something casual where you can have a glass of wine and
yeah, okay.
I haven't run into anything like that.
That is a good suggestion. I hadn't thought of that.
Yes. And I have some other ideas here, too.
Yes, you came prepared. That's good. That's good.
Okay. In a way, I think there are a few too many people.
You think it's too many people?
Yes, because I think that also if you're on a bus that's, our bus is gigantic. We could have a smaller bus, or we could have the same bus and we could stick our feet out.
Oh, that's true.
And we'd go for 2 hours.
Yeah.
That's another thing.
Well, Elise agrees with you. Elise would prefer to make it a smaller group, but then we would have to raise the price. And I guess that's possibly possible, but that's the reason why I tend to go 40 max, and there's 37 of us on this tour this year. Yeah.
It's busy. And I think also it's really hard in such a short time to get to know 40 people.
Yeah.
You kind of think about them as they join, right?
Yes. But one thing that we do that helps is that we have a WhatsApp group ahead of time, well ahead of time, which I'm pretty sure you haven't had on any previous tours.
That's right.
And so people can get to know each other the people who participate in the WhatsApp group.
That was good.
Yeah.
And I had a friend coming to spend a weekend with me, and that was the WhatsApp weekend.
Yeah. So really, that's one thing to keep in mind is the way this works is people get to know each other ahead of time on the WhatsApp group. We also did 2 Zoom meetings. I'm not sure if you were on one of those.
I had one, but I couldn't hear because I was in Florida, you know.
Ah, wow. But so we do try to get people to, get somewhat acquainted with one another before, but it's not perfect. And like you said, it is a big group. I do understand that. Yeah. What do you think, Jay?
The group size just seemed kind of large. That's what I thought at first. But I don't know, maybe it's because I'm younger. I like the group size just because I get to know people from different places. We get to talk more.
Yeah.
Some have really great French. Some are just learning. Some have never been here, which is also great because I felt like I was one of the people with least experience here. And then I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one that's only been here a couple of times or someone that's here for their first time.
Yeah. Did you make new friends?
Yes. I work in tourism back on the weekends.
Yeah.
And then I was talking to a couple of other people in the boot camp yesterday on our little excursion, and they have plans to be in the San Francisco area. And now that they found out I work in tourism on the weekends, they're like, oh, we should come check you out sometime. And I told them, let me know so I could be your tour guide. Because I don't actually do tours like this city. I work at a historical landmark, so I'm always stuck there.
Which one?
The Winchester Mystery House.
Okay,
Yeah.
nice.
It's just a building that I tell the history, but this is nice because it's city-wise, it's little villages. I like it.
Yeah, we do a little bit of everything, yeah.
And I also enjoy the little breaks we have in between to go shop around, try their food. Yesterday, we ended up going to a little pastry shop. We got some cookies, some coffee, and some bread. It was just really nice. And just sitting down and seeing all the bread being made, it gives you a different feel. You know it's freshly made, and you can taste the difference.
Yeah. Wendy, we've done tours where you go, like you spend 2 nights in one city and then like you'd spend perhaps 2 nights in Toulouse and then get on a bus and go all the way across France to some other part of France.
It's only a taste. I mean, there are yes and no's to it, you know? I mean, here there are so many nice little places to visit. It kind of gives you a stream. But you're always packing your bag and going on to the next place.
Right. So that's the big disadvantage is pack your bag and go.
And I'm definitely interested in staying in one spot and kind of feel a little more sedentary and going out and discovering for myself.
Yeah, I think some of the people who've come to the boot camp before have said, it's nice because I have a few hours to myself each day, but I know I'm going to meet with people.
Yes, later on.
For part of the day. So it's not lonely. Because sometimes when you travel by yourself, I mean, I enjoy going to Paris by myself because I am writing a tour.
Yeah, of course, you're busy.
I'm busy. I am checking things out. My husband is big into what are we going to do today? Like he wants 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, When I'm writing a tour, I can't do that. I'm going to change my mind in the middle and go into something I hadn't seen before. And so I love that spontaneity of traveling by myself. But if you do that long enough, you get lonely. Well, you don't talk to anybody. We have kind of the best of both worlds here. Has Toulouse been surprising as a city? I want you to convince other people to come to Toulouse.
Oh, yes. I think it is surprising because I never realized in Paris, you think you have it all, but here, this is really medieval. So it's something that Paris is not. It's much more advanced in that, I guess you'd say.
It's very welcoming. And going back to what we talked about a few days ago, the best way to make a friend is to ask for help. That unfortunately ended up happening to me because the Airbnb that I was staying at flooded 2 nights ago. So I had to reach out. The neighbor helped out as well because his place underneath mine was also getting flooded.
It flooded because of the rain or?
No, it wasn't even raining that night. It was 1 a.m. I heard water and I thought it was raining and I thought I left the window open. I stepped out of the room into the living room and then I just see the living room coming down with water.
Oh.
So I ended up reaching out to the person for the Airbnb, their assistant, and then to the neighbor came and helped me because his place underneath mine was also getting flooded.
Yeah.
Turns out that the neighbor upstairs, we don't know where they were. They were gone, but their door was unlocked. So we went in there. There was a dog in there and their shower had just gone crazy. So the shower head was on the floor throwing water everywhere. and it eventually started leaking.
Of course.
Yeah, so the power was out. We just needed to be turned off, but the neighbor upstairs wasn't there.
In the meantime, it's a disaster.
Yes. So there's just water coming down everywhere from the lights sockets, like the light bulbs, everything. It's just dripping down them. The power went out. The owner showed up within 10 minutes, which was great. She was very helpful. She was very apologetic, even though it wasn't her fault. I spent the night there, and then the next morning she told me, what time do I wake up? I told her 9. She showed up at 9, and she ended up moving everything out into the patio to help it dry out. She dried everything off. And then I booked a hotel for last night, and she didn't have to, but she helped me carry some of my luggage to the hotel.
And of course, those 2 nights are going to get refunded, or however many nights, yeah.
But even that, she didn't have to show up in the morning at 9 o'clock to help with that.
Yeah.
She didn't have to help me move my stuff to the hotel.
But she did.
And she was very apologetic. I was also very apologetic, even though it wasn't either one of our fault.
Yes.
But like you said, if you want to talk to someone, asking for help is the best way.
That works every time in France. Just if you need help, ask for help.
And I haven't had any negative experiences with French people here in Toulouse. It's all been very positive. I was in the park earlier and people were walking around with pamphlets. And I told them, I was like, oh, I speak a little bit of French. And they're like, oh, English? And I was like, yes. And then we had a lovely conversation. People here are a lot more willing to talk if you start the conversation.
Yeah, the feeling of the city is pretty busy, and, you know, there's people outside all the time willing to talk.
This is a busy city.
It is a busy city.
I mean, it's amazing. And it's a happy city. And they're just people coming and going at every time of day and night.
And it's really easy to get comfortable in the city. At this point, I kind of just like to wake up and wander around the city, see where I'll end up, take a different street. But it's nice.
That's wonderful.
It's nice.
Thank you so much, you guys. I'm so glad you talked to me, and we have 2 new people joining me. So thank you,
right,
and we
you.
will talk to you soon. Au revoir.
Au revoir.
Bonjour, ladies.
Bonjour.
Bonjour, Annie. Introduce yourselves, would you? Go ahead.
Je m'appelle Kathleen Capriati. Je suis de Pennsylvanie.
Oui.
Et c'est tout.
C'est tout. And she is a French teacher, which is why she likes to do things in French. Now, the podcast is in English, so you'll have to continue in English, my friend. Okay, how about you?
Okay, so I'm Helena, and I've got an Australian accent because I lived in Australia for 40 years. But 3 years ago, I moved back to England. But I've been listening to Join Us in France podcast since many years, probably 6 or 7 years, I think. I first heard it in Australia. Wow. I'm a great fan.
So this is something that's different with you because you haven't been listening to the podcast, have you?
That's correct, Annie. I have listened to 1 or 2, but I haven't listened to them regularly, and now I have every intention to start.
So how did you make it to the bootcamp?
I made it to the boot camp through another person who had recommended the podcast. That's why I listened to 1 or 2. And then she brought up the fact that there was the boot camp, and did I want to do it? And I gave it like 1 night of thought. And that was right around the end of the last year. And I'm like, this sounds like a great idea for the new year.
Oh, good. I'm glad you came.
Thank you very much.
So how have you liked your experience? How is Toulouse? How are the language classes? You're both taking language classes.
It's surpassed my expectations. I mean, I've been to France a few times, but actually not down to Toulouse, mostly the northwest and to Paris. As soon as I heard about the boot camp last year, I listened to the podcast on the boot camp. I thought, I really want to be part of that. So I signed up almost immediately. You release places, and it has surpassed my expectations. I think because of the flexibility, because of the range of activities, and then having the classes as an adjunct has just worked out really well.
Right.
Toulouse itself, wonderful.
So you feel the language class has been a good experience for you?
Yes, and those I was quite apprehensive about because I've been part of language classes where they're either pitched too low or they're pitched too high. And we had a particularly good teacher, Carol, and there's quite a diversity in the class, diversity in the backgrounds of the people, and also probably to a certain extent in the levels of comfort with French, particularly spoken French. And she was very good at meeting the needs of each person, engaging everyone, and ensuring that no one was either left out or put in a situation where it was beyond them.
Right.
I thoroughly recommend those classes.
That's good. And how about you? Because as a French teacher, you're used to this.
I had no idea what to expect. I figured I'd be put into the advanced classes, and originally I wasn't. And so all I did on the first day was that it was mentioned in French, but though that I wasn't sure if I was in the correct niveau, the right level.
Yeah.
And they immediately took me by the arm, brought me to a woman, and then they put me in C1, which is C1, and it's one of the advanced classes. I couldn't be happier, practically giddy every day when I get there. And if you're thinking of doing this and you already speak French, I think it's good to know what the classes are like. So the teacher was younger than me. All the other students were younger too, but not super young. They were mature. They were from all different countries. So interesting. So the common language was French. And I'd say it was very open. So I almost wonder if I brought that feel to the class because it seemed a little quiet before I came. And then when the teacher would say something, I would ask a question or I would comment, and then everybody sort of just started to, really, it was a lot of fun. Our theme this week was literature, which was great. And we read a couple excerpts about the authors and then just a page of their writing. And then we contrasted two. And today I actually went on a field trip to a bookstore.
Oh,
So that was part of our level class. And it was great. And I did, even though I would say I'm advanced, and I'm really glad they had something for my level. I learned stuff. I learned a lot. Yeah, I did. And I knew that. I was humble enough to know that.
and you got to practice the French you already know, because if you don't speak it,
And I don't usually
it
have
gets
the
rusty.
opportunity
Right.
because I'm a retired teacher. I
Oh,
don't
you're a
teach
retired
anymore.
teacher. All right. I didn't realize that.
I haven't taught in several years.
Yeah, and it's good to learn new stuff and talk about new topics and all of that.
It was really fun.
How have you liked the activities with the boot camp?
Absolutely superb. And again, that range of activities. One thing I love about the boot camp is that there's a choice and no one's forced into going on an activity. And there is such a variety of them. If you're going to ask the question, what was your favourite or what was your least favourite, I honestly couldn't distinguish. Each time I've said, oh, wow, this is the best thing we've done so far. And then there's another one. And I know we've got a visit to Carcassonne and then the ancient paintings tomorrow, which I'm looking forward to as an Australian to look at in relation to the Indigenous paintings in Australia.
Oh, that's
because
right.
they go back 40, 50,000 years.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so it will be. I think the fact that we've had these places which have been moments of disconnection with the ancient culture around here in the churches, the importance of the Cathar, of so many children. I had no idea. Now, this is awful because I've walked the Camino. I had no idea Toulouse was so significant as a step of one of the ways on the Camino.
Well, there's so many routes, you can't walk them all. No, you pick one.
This is actually a very significant one. Yeah. And then for me too, again, as an Australian, I've really encouraged Europeans and Australians to come on the boot camp. I was living in a wine area in South Australia, and the visit to the vineyards, the organic vineyards, the other day was absolutely wonderful.
Yeah, so this is Canto Perlic, a Gaillac wine. Lovely person. I mean, honestly.
Passion that they have and the vision that they have for their product. The fact that they recognise this is a difficult process, but step by step, it gets better every year. Very, very hardworking, and the absolutely beautiful generosity and welcome that was given.
Yeah, several people said, I just want to stay here longer because it was pleasant,
I think one of our members has signed up for picking grapes later on in the year.
Oh, there you go. Did you like the wine? The wine?
I loved it, especially because the owner, I guess you used the term expat. So she was American and she moved here young and she's lived here all those years. So yeah, the winery was so peaceful.
Yeah.
And it was the window into the private lives of people that live in the country here near Toulouse, which you wouldn't get on any other kind of tour. I mean, we were literally invited into their home.
You would.
And not only to taste the wines and the delicious cheeses, but to see their children and to see their dog running around and to go into their barns and look at all the cask and, the barrels, etc. So, yeah, that was an opportunity that is very hard to find.
Well, a lot of wine tours, the situation is like this. Look at me, I'm very cool because I've inherited this gorgeous property. And let me show you around for an hour. This is very different. This is a family affair. You get to see the couple that runs the winery. Their one daughter was there the whole time. The second one came back from school. We got to meet their dog. They had a couple of helpers. It's not a show-off kind of winery. It's real. And most wineries in France are very small, and they're that sort of winery. And so I was delighted when I met her because I thought, this woman, she got it. And her husband is just as nice.
And the fact they spoke about, they had both come out of the health services. I think he was a doctor, she was working in the health services, and then had made that decision 20 years ago.
Yes.
This is what we have a passion for, let's do it. Yeah. And I think there's probably a lot of your listeners who would have gone through similar patterns in their life, thinking, do I, don't I? And look at the result here with a lot of hard work.
Yes, it is a lot of work. It is a lot of work. And they have a lot of energy, but they are outstanding. And that's the one thing that I enjoy about organizing the bootcamp is that I try to do a mix of activities. So we're going to Carcassonne, very touristy, but we also went to Saint-Bertrand-de-Comminges, not nearly as touristy.
Fantastic.
We also do the winery with a small organic family-owned winery because it's the variety of experiences that makes it special. Have you met some interesting people in the bus or on the tours have you made new friends?
Enormously. So there's a small bunch of us Europeans. And so we, started joking and spending time together. But actually, we just formed really close friendships, and the discussions we've had have been wonderful. Really wonderful group of people. And I kept asking myself, why is everyone so good? And I think it's because they're all francophiles.
Right.
Yeah. And just that certain openness to different cultures, to a different way of being.
Well, and there's a certain self-selection.
Yeah.
Because most of the people who came to the bootcamp have been listening to the podcast for a long time.
Yes.
If they don't like our style and they don't like, they wouldn't come. Yeah. They just wouldn't come. Yes. And so it eliminates a lot of people who just wouldn't fit in the group. And I mean, we do have a wide variety of personalities and ages. And have you met some new people as well?
Absolutely. And what I would say is that even if you're someone who's been to France many, many, many times, because this focuses on the Southwest and Toulouse, and, we've gone in the area all around, it's very unique to visit this region of France. Yeah. And that's what's been good for me. And there are some places on this agenda that I've been to before, but there were also many that I haven't been to.
Do you think we're doing too much, too little? Do you have too much time to yourself?
No, because it's flexible. I mean, anyone can turn around at any time and say, look, I'm tired, I'm not going on this particular event or whatever. No, definitely. And the fact this time around we actually got a free afternoon.
Yeah.
But people are choosing to go and do things anyway.
That's right.
And I just want to add to something you were saying, going to the places, something that's really enhanced it is the fact that Elise is with us. And so often she can open stuff out, as you do, open stuff out in a way that you don't get in books, you don't get listening to the audio guides, whatever. Yeah. It's been terrific.
She's wonderful.
I mean, you learn so much. You don't feel like this is just fun. It's so fun, and it fills your heart, and it fills your eyes, and it's just so satisfying. But you learn so much, and you just make these little notes in your heart and in your mind of what do I want to follow up on when I get home, because I now want to research so much more.
It fills you up with a desire to learn more, I guess, because Elise has a wonderful way of explaining things. I really couldn't do what she does, not in the Southwest.
You both bring different gifts, and that's why it's so successful.
Right. For me, I need to write a tour. I need to be in Paris, write a tour, select everything, be calm and collected, and write my voice map tours. She is more of a performer and someone who knows vast amounts as well, not just a performance, but she really puts on a wonderful tour.
Yeah, she's great.
And you're both very good at actually spotting if someone's feeling a little bit, out or something like that. I think that's another thing that works well on the tour, that no one's being smothered, but there's a sense of everyone's cared about. Your well-being is cared about.
Well, I do care that everybody has a good time. I mean, honestly, that's always my biggest fear. Is somebody going to get hurt? We haven't had anybody get hurt. We haven't had anybody get lost. Really, it's so far so good, knock on wood. We hope that it continues. But I want to bring up something that happened to you before the boot camp started. You guys rented a car to go somewhere, and they talked you into an electric car, and it didn't go great. And I have been saying on the podcast, please don't rent an electric car if you are not used to this.
but I would like you to talk about it.
Well, that's a good thing to tell people because when we arrived at the Toulouse airport, of course, at that point, you're really tired because you've had an overnight flight.
Yeah.
And we worked with Enterprise. The only car they had there at that time was an electric car. So they kind of pushed it easy, easy, easy. And the battery has enough charge for you to ride to Lourdes, which is where we went, and to get back. And no worries, no problems, just turn it on and go. So we did. I was not the driver. I was the navigator. First of all, it's a whole new car, different buttons, different everything.
Yeah.
So it was an adjustment for sure. But then the roads were great. You had told my driver, who was another boot camper, so we were just two Americans driving around in France, that the route was easy, and it was. But then on the way back, we kept looking at the amount of charge that was in the battery and determined that we better get some electric, whatever it's called.
Charge, yeah.
That was a bit of a problem because we didn't know how to do it, basically. It can be faster or it can be slower, and it took a while. Again, you're usually kind of tired, especially at the very beginning of the trip. We eventually succeeded. It got done, but we would have been much happier with it, filling up with a tank of gas.
Yes, yes. So this is really important. If you drive electric at home and you're used to all the different level 1, level 2, level 3 charging, you understand this, you understand that sometimes you need a card to start the charge, blah, blah, blah. All of this is stuff you get to know when you drive an electric car. But when you don't, it throws too much new stuff at you. So please don't rent an electric car. I would have walked off. And I recommend that you just say, Enterprise, I'm sorry, I'm not taking this car. I'm looking somewhere else. Because it is just throwing too much newness at you.
Yeah.
For the time being, perhaps in another 5 years, more people will have been, will be familiar. But in 2024, please don't.
Yeah. Good advice.
Any advice you have for future boot campers that didn't come up?
For future boot campers.
Yes.
One thing I did think, I'm not sure if that's the same question that you're asking, is we actually still have free time on the boot camp, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
So between classes, or if people aren't doing classes, I think I did a fair amount of looking at what else was in Toulouse that we weren't going to see.
Yeah.
So I made a point of going to the Art Museum, to Fondation Bombe, certain walks, and then this afternoon, Musée de la Résistance et Révolution. And it might be an idea just to produce a list of other things you could be doing in Toulouse, but that we won't be doing on the boot.
Wendy also mentioned something like that. Like she would have liked to know about live music, concerts going on that week. It didn't even occur to me.
I think the live music and the concerts is probably quite difficult because you've got to know the program and hand that over. But more in terms of the places,
Right.
like the art gallery, like so a number of the churches, for example. Like by accident, I discovered Église Saint-Géraud this morning.
It doesn't look like a church from the outside.
Yeah, there's loads everywhere, but it's quite nice just to wander in and just the atmosphere.
It's a great church for concerts, that one.
And the Museum of the Resistance and the deportation is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
So, but that's just an idea because we're all capable of doing our own thing.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you so much, ladies, for talking to me, and lovely meeting you at the boot camp.
Thank you. And I really encourage anyone to come on the boot camp. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Merci, au revoir.
De rien, merci.
Bienvenue, ladies. Thank you for talking to me. We have 3 people now in this group. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Let's start with you.
So my name is Susan Temple. I'm from Alabama, and I'm a nurse.
You are a nurse. Okay, let me turn you up. Susan Temple, you speak softly.
She does.
How about you?
I'm Julie Weiss. I'm from Massachusetts.
You're from Massachusetts. And what sort of work did you do?
I work in agriculture.
Oh, great. Fantastic. You grow things. We like that. How about you?
My name is Cheryl Stewart, and I am retired now. I was a technology project manager, and I'm also from Massachusetts.
So, what was your favorite thing to do with the boot camp? Do you have a favorite? Or was it all like, oh, I don't know. What do you think?
For me, it was visiting all the older buildings, the older churches, and learning about them. Learning about the history of Toulouse was fascinating. I've never been here before.
Yeah.
So being able to see this and experience it, live it, fantastic.
So you hadn't been to Toulouse, but have you visited France a bunch?
Yes, I've been to Paris multiple times. I've been to Alsace. I've been to Normandy. I've been to Brittany. I've been to Aix-en-Provence. I've been down to Nice. This is my first time in the southwest of France.
So you are definitely a Francophile.
Definitely Francophile, but I'm not fluent in French, so that was an added benefit was being able to come to the school.
All right. So you are taking the classes.
I am taking the classes.
How do you like that? Is that working out well?
I loved it. I hate to admit it, I did Duolingo for many years, so I can read a lot of French.
Yeah.
I understood a lot of things when I read it or when people talk, but I wanted to make sure it was coming out of my mouth right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so this was a great segue.
Yes. Duolingo is great at teaching you to pick A, B, or C. Beyond that, you need more. How about you?
I think my favorite thing had to be the wine and cheese tasting and visiting the winery. For me, with my agriculture, learning about how they're doing it and, the organic and what they've done. And speaking with the vintner herself was really cool.
Yeah.
And the cheeses she picked were incredible and the wine was awesome. And it was fascinating to learn, they have 20 varietals and they, age them uniquely and then they put them together. So that was really, really interesting and just such a beautiful spot. I'm glad you picked something like that instead of some big, huge, very commercial.
Right. Most wineries in France are very much like Canto Perlique, but that one has a lot of heart because it's a family-run operation and you get to talk to the people and they didn't just inherit this, they are making it, building it, and that's a very different feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, I'm glad that you like that. That's great.
Well, since this is my first time in Toulouse and in the southwest of France, it's really hard for me to tell you which thing I liked the most because I liked all of it probably equally. I've been to France many times. I was a French major and I lived in Nice and I've traveled elsewhere, but never to the southwest ever. So this was just such a delight to be able to explore the area and all the excursions we did. I loved all of them. And I loved going back to school as well. I liked the whole package. Yeah, I really enjoyed going back to school. It made me feel young again. It made me feel happy. It was a good confidence booster in being able to go into all the shops and go around and speak French and not be, self-conscious.
So did you feel like it was a good balance, enough to do, but not overwhelming, perhaps?
Yes, absolutely. I did. I thought it was very well put together, having class in the morning and off and running in the afternoon to see things.
Yeah. Did you skip anything because you were unwell or too tired?
No, I was going to hit every bit of it.
Some people skipped stuff because they weren't feeling right, which is fair as well.
Yeah.
But I think, you three were at most things.
Yeah, everything.
You did everything.
We got here a couple days early. We got here on Thursday morning, which was really nice because we got a little bit of lay of the land. We did Elise's Toulouse walking tour, which was awesome.
Yeah.
We took 2 afternoons or an afternoon and a morning to do that. So we kind of got a little lay of the land. I think it would have been hard to get here Friday and start right in on Saturday. And I wish I had a couple days at the end because now I know all the cool stuff and I want to go back, but I'm not going to have time.
Right.
But the pace of what you set up and all the different things, I wouldn't have skipped anything. I'm happy to do it all.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. Totally agree. I thought that the variety of things that we did was fabulous. And I liked having a little bit of time to myself, but I think that, as Julie just said, the fact that we got here 2 days early gave us that opportunity to get the lay of the land, to walk around a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I want to see as much as we can see. And you gave us that opportunity to do that.
So most people who go on a tour, they're going to go, 2 nights in Toulouse, 2 nights in Bordeaux, 3 nights in Loire Valley. Here, it's more of you stick around the area, you sleep in the same bed every night, and you get to branch out, but without going too far. It's a style of a tour that's pretty hard to sell. If I didn't have the podcast, I couldn't sell this because most people are used to, when they go on a Rick Steves tour, well, it's going to be a tour of,
6 different towns.
6 towns. You go all over the place. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think I would love to hear have you done other tours? What was it like?
So I've done 4 different Viking river cruises.
Yes.
Many of them in Europe. I've done different activities, like I did the Camino a couple of weeks ago. I've done Cotswold Walk in England years ago. I mean, I've done a lot of different things. Those kind of experiences are great if you just want an introduction to an area. Your kind of experience gives more than that. To me, it introduces, when I do the earlier kind, the Viking River cruises and that, I've always said, it's to give you a taste of an area.
Yeah.
Then you go back.
Yeah.
And spend more time. You figure out what it is you like, and then you go back. So this is not my last time in Toulouse. I'll be back, and I'll bring my family.
It is amazing, though, that with short bus rides, 2 hours max, we got to see so many things using Toulouse as a base. There really is a lot to see in this area. And to have Elise say, how many times did she say, this is the biggest church, the widest, the tallest, the longest, and all of those are within a stone's throw of Toulouse is pretty amazing. It's a great home base because you've got such variety of things to see from here, which is pretty cool.
Yes. That's why, I'm tempted to do this year after year in Toulouse because, well, first of all, we know the area. It's easy for me to pick up a phone and say, I am a local. I live here. I was born here. But also there is a lot here. Like every time, because when we meet and discuss what we're going to include, believe it or not, we have to rule out a lot of things, because we just we only have so many days.
Yeah, and I think Toulouse itself has such rich history, and I thought that was so fascinating to hear about, the city being founded by the Romans and the history of the kings and just right here in this Capitol Plaza. You don't even have to go very far to be enthralled in history.
Yes.
I mean, that was fabulous the day that we spent there.
Did you find good accommodations? Did you like your choices?
Yeah, we
Definitely.
did. And we ended up rooming together. We're in a 2-bedroom. 2 of us are in a 2-bedroom apartment at Clément Adair.
Yes.
And that just worked out fabulous for us. And we didn't even know each other before this trip. And it worked out really great. And now I have a really good friend. And it's just been, it's been wonderful.
And I feel like we've met enough other people that are wonderful that I would want to continue to be in touch with over time.
Yeah. And did you participate in the Zooms? I know you did. You two did. Were you in the Zooms as well?
One of the Zooms, I was on the Camino the last one. So.
Yes. Well, yes. You were busy. You were doing something great as well. I have cousins who today they completed I think it's their second stretch of the Camino. So these are locals. They live in Nîmes, but they do every fall, they make a section of the Camino. And they just finished. She was pretty happy because I think she was getting tired. It's hard.
Friday afternoon, we did a really long bike ride for 1.5 hours out into the not foothills, but out into the countryside.
Yeah.
So that took up an afternoon, but I'm not going to make it to the machine. And there's a couple other churches in Toulouse I might have wanted to go into, but didn't have time. Yeah. We had a list going and we're trying to knock it off this afternoon as much as we can.
I think what I need to do is for the next boot camp, write up a booklet about Toulouse that lists activities, favorite bars,
favorite restaurants.
Exactly.
And then you can have a list for people. Exactly. Not that we've had a bad meal, I can't say.
But there were some that stood out more than others.
Exactly. It always does. That's how it works. And it's also personal choice. I mean,
Sure. Yeah.
So would you recommend the boot camp to specific types of people? People like to travel alone, people travel in groups. Who is this good for?
I think everybody. I think there were some people who are alone who, made friends and have kind of now traveled in a pack. Yeah. Or there are some other people who came alone who have kind of been a little, stuck more to themselves.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily go out to eat with everyone or whatever. But there's also been some families and they've seemed like they've done, and seem to be really having fun together. So I think if you came with a partner, it'd be fun too. But It's been a great opportunity to meet a bunch of new people.
Right. Yeah, and we had 5 or 6 return boot campers who did this last year. They did it again this year because they had a good time. They wanted to do it again. They brought family members, all of them, because they wanted the rest of the family to see this, which is really, to me, it means a lot because it means it was successful.
That was indicative that how good it was going to be to us, to me signing up, because if somebody wants to go again just a year later, it must have been really awesome. Because there's so many trips you can do and so many places you can go.
Yes.
But I could see Toulouse being in my future.
Did you like the feel of the city?
Oh, totally. It's a nice, small, manageable city. Other than taking the bus from the airport, we haven't done anything but walk. And we've seen, we walked down to the Resistance Museum this afternoon. Yeah. It's totally manageable on foot, which is really nice.
There's a good vibe to the city.
There's good energy.
Yeah, good energy. If it's rainy and cold, fewer people are out in the streets. And we've had some rain, but it's been okay, right?
Yeah, it's certainly better than what the forecast looked like it was going to be last week when we were packing.
Yes.
It looked like it was going to kind of rain every single day, but it hasn't.
So it rains a little bit in the night or first thing in the morning, and then we're okay most of the day. So it's been fine. But it's cooler than normal. I never thought I'd be wearing this shirt,
But that's okay when you're walking around the city you stress for it.
We listened to what you said and we brought layers so we could peel them off as we needed to.
Good.
But no, I think the city is just a fun city and it's a really walkable and lots of things to look at, tons of shops, tons of boulangerie and then little restaurant, cafe type places. It's just whatever you feel like doing, I feel like there's something here for you. If you feel like going to a museum or hanging out at the garden, there's gardens and museums for you. If you feel like just walking around and window shopping, there's that.
Yes. Did you do some shopping as well?
A little bit, but not a lot.
I could stay another month and that would really get me in trouble with shopping. I didn't do any clothes shopping, but a lot of souvenirs for gifts for friends and family.
Well, we have a couple of wonderful days coming up, so stay tuned. We'll have more.
Looking forward to it.
Tomorrow's going to be a long day, though, because, we leave earlier than normal. We'll probably come back a little later than usual. But then Saturday, we'll take it easy. All right. Well, thank you so much, ladies, for talking to me. And thank you for coming to the boot camp. It was lovely meeting you.
Yeah, thanks. Same here.
Thank you.
And thank you for everything.
Again, I want to thank my patrons for giving back and supporting the show. Patreon supporters get new episodes as soon as they are ready and ads free for as little as $2 a month. If that sounds good to you, be like them, follow the link in the show notes. And patrons get other exclusive rewards for doing that. You can see them at patreon.com/join us, Patreon, join us, no spaces or dashes. And a shout out this week to new patrons, Andrea Publo and Carol Crawford. And to all my current patrons, it's wonderful to have you on board in the community of travel enthusiasts and francophiles who keep this podcast going. And to support Elise, go to patreon.com/EliseArt, ELYSART. If you've been a patron for a year or more and you're going to Paris, message me within Patreon and I'll give you a free code of one of my voice map tours. This is also good for people who just joined but select yearly support. So hey, if you join as a yearly patron at the $5 level, you get 2 months off plus free tour code. It's a good deal. Somebody left this review of my tour this week. This was about my food tour around Les Halles. Great tour today, thank you. Yum. Yes, on the food tour, I take you to some delicious places. And unlike a regular food tour where you pay quite a lot just to be with a group, in this food tour, you listen to me, I take you to all these places where you can buy your own and have a little bit more substance. Let's put it this way. And don't forget, podcast listeners get a big discount for buying these tours from my website. All right, what's happening in French politics this week? We had a bit of a bombshell, didn't we? Here's my take on that. this week has demonstrated that French people are totally capable of falling for the siren song of populism, and politicians who tout easy answers to complex questions. That is not new. The Rassemblement National, or RN, has been gaining ground steadily for the last 20 years. France is not the only country where this is happening. In Europe or in the US, perhaps in other places where I don't follow the politics. Will it have a big impact on your trip if you are visiting France on election day? No. Elections in France are a quiet affair. Elections take place on Sundays, usually at the elementary school or some other public building. Most polling places open at 8 a.m. and close at 8 p.m. Nothing unusual will happen because there's an election, other than lots of people will go to the school building to vote that day. I don't anticipate any commotion or disturbances of any sort. Do not change your plans because of this political problem, which I hope will get solved. Will this have a negative impact on the Olympics? Well, hopefully not. Emmanuel Macron has said that no, it won't, so I trust him. The Minister of the Interior is in charge of security during the Olympics. They've done a ton of work to get to the point where they are today. He's likely to stay in place until after the Olympics. I mean, there are no guarantees, but I don't think it's going to change anything. The Minister of Sports at this point, they're cutting ribbons at this point. It's already ready to go. So safety is the biggie, and I don't think anybody will take that lightly, no matter who gets elected, I think. I hope. For the parliamentarian elections coming up, we'll vote on Sunday, June 30th and Sunday, July 7th. This is a 2-round election, as per usual in France. Normally, it takes place every 5 years, and typically it takes place a month after we vote for president, because with a new presidential term comes a new parliament. And then the new parliament elects our new Senate. This is totally different from what you have in the US, of course. Why are we having these elections now in the middle of Macron's term? He's in place till 2027. There was no need to do any of this until 2027. Per the French Constitution, French presidents can call for a new election of the parliament. Typically, they do it if they feel that they cannot work with your parliament that is in place. That is something that Chirac did, for example. Served him well, he lost. But this is not what is happening this time, because after making alliances in 2022, Macron's party has a slim majority in the parliament. He could have left this parliament run its course until 2027, but he decided not to. Why? Well, there was a European election last Sunday in which Macron's party lost badly, and where the Rassemblement National, the RN, won by a bigger margin than anyone anticipated. These were elections for the European Parliament, where extreme right parties always do well, because French people don't think that the European Parliament matters very much. So this is their time to, quote, scare national politicians by voting for the extreme right candidates. This time, Macron called their bluff. You want the fascists in power? Let's see how you vote in the national elections in 3 weeks. It sounds like an insane gamble, but he's counting on something that has happened in all elections where the extreme right got to the second round in France. Enough of the people who vote for the RN on the first round vote for the other candidate on the second round. It's a way to express frustration without actually electing a nut job. The danger with this is that it's become normal to have an extreme right candidate, wing nut, make it to the second round. It normalizes their presence. And that's what Marine Le Pen is counting on. After these European elections, the next time we were supposed to vote would have been the presidential elections in 2027. And if you extrapolate how much she's improved her standing in subsequent elections, she would be the clear winner in 2027. Macron did not see a way to stop that progression other than by shocking the system. And that's why he called for early elections. In France, whoever has the majority in parliament gets to decide who the prime minister is, and then the prime minister forms a government. Marine Le Pen has already chosen her right-hand man, Jordan Bardella, to get the job should her party win the election. He's a popular guy, despite the fact that he only has a high school diploma and dropped out of college. He started a geography degree, but decided that was too hard. He worked for his father's business for a short time, but that was too hard. And as luck would have it, he courted Marine Le Pen's niece, which is when he climbed up in the ranks of her party. And he's been getting paid by the party ever since. Macron is betting on a few things. Number one, that people will rally to him because they don't want to see the RN take the prime minister job. I don't think that's going to happen because he's really, really unpopular for reasons I'll go into in a minute. Number two, that the French left will not unite, just like they haven't been able to unite in the last 10 years. It appears, and if that had happened, then you'd be left with a choice between Marine Le Pen's party and Macron. But it appears that the left is uniting indeed, and they will present one candidate per district. That's all you need to do. Just, if you can agree on one candidate per district on the first round, then you have a way better chance to make it to the second round. Number three, he was betting that if Bardella becomes prime minister, he will do such a terrible job that people will realize it and will not elect Marine Le Pen for president in 2027. I am certain that Bardella would be a horrible prime minister, but I would not bet on his voters changing their minds rather than sticking to their guns. That's probably because I see how American elections are going. Personally, I have voted for Macron's party since 2017, every election. I would like his party to make it to the second round of the coming election, but I doubt they will. My guess is candidates from the left-wing coalition, they are calling themselves Front Populaire, Popular Front, which is a historical callback to right after the Second World War. I think so. I think that Front Populaire will make it to the second round because there are a lot of people who are left-wing at heart, but there were so many left-wing parties that they just couldn't pick one, you know. They never won anything. They fractured their vote too much. And also, of course, Marine Le Pen's party will definitely have a candidate on the second round in almost every district in France. Perhaps a few big cities won't, but I mean, yeah, most places. There is no chance in hell I would vote for the RN. Not ever. So I will vote for whoever is left standing against them in my own district on July 7th. Even if I don't like that person or their party or what they are campaigning on, I don't care at this point. Just want to stop those fascists. So perhaps it'll work, perhaps it won't. It's really, really hard to tell. Now, let me tell you why Macron is so unpopular. He raised retirement age by 2 years. Unemployment benefits are getting reduced as we speak. Speed limits and higher taxes on diesel fuel. That was the Gilets jaunes a few years back. There was such an intense dislike of that they had to dial it back for the most part. Farmers do not want to change their practices, and they do not accept that the way they grow things has more negative impact on the environment than it needs to. And also taxes on farmers' diesel were about to go up. Nobody wants the price of diesel to change very much, you know. Inflation is very real in France, and it's hitting people, especially people on low salaries, very, very badly. Higher interest rates for business, startups, for buying a house, for buying a car, for anything is, you know, interest rates are terrible. Perhaps they'll start coming down now, but we're not there yet. There are major difficulties for housing, especially for low-income people and students. There is the feeling that rich people evade taxes and are not paying their fair share. It's a fact that healthcare providers are not paid well in France, and we don't have enough of them. With an aging population, that's a problem. Teachers are not well paid in France, and it's getting harder and harder to recruit them. That is a job I would never do, so blessings on teachers everywhere. Parents feel that their kids are not safe in school. We've had several specific instances of kids getting beaten to death by peers over the last few months over really silly issues, and they haven't found a way to make that stop so far. And of course, that hits people in the heart. The Justice Department keeps fumbling cases that they should be winning. There's a guy who escaped from jail just a month ago. He killed 2 prison guards in the process. He is still on the loose. They found 9 cell phones in his cell because somehow they haven't found a way to scramble cell signals in prisons or prevent drones from flying over prisons and dropping whatever the inmates want. This is so maddening, I don't even know what to say, Then there's also the fact that there are a lot of EU regulations as well as French judges that protect migrants. Perhaps migrants should be protected. I don't really have an opinion one way or the other on that. It's certainly very sad to see what's happening. But Macron's government, they're not doing a good job convincing people that these people need help. And they probably should. There are a lot of single-issue voters in France, just like there are in the US. There are people who say, I don't want to be forced to drive an electric car. I don't want to pay more for medications. Anytime they raise the price of, we have great coverage of medications in France. We hardly pay anything for them. But you increase the price by €1 and it's the end of the world. People say I'm against EU regulations on cheese, on milk, on tomatoes, whatever. They all have their button thing. The global economy creates too much competition for regular people who don't really have the ability to go into higher education because, let's face it, these days, if you don't have a lot of knowledge and a very good degree, you're going to be stuck in jobs that don't pay very much, okay? That's just how it is. There are a lot of people also who say, we need to try something new. Traditional parties, they just bicker between themselves, they get nothing done, and I don't think the RN will do any better, but okay. There's not enough investigation on, because we have a lot of towns and whole areas that have had RN mayors for a long time. Do these cities have the perfect life that they were promised? No, they don't. But you don't hear about that very much in the French press, and we need to hear more of that. People don't want to be told that they don't understand history or are stupid. Yeah, I don't want to hear that either. And climate change is making a lot of people really, really nervous. And we see that because many of them get fixated on one thing that they think is the magic bullet. So they say, if we'd all just stop flying, if we'd all stop eating meat, or if we'd all go around on a bicycle, that would fix the world. Well, it's not. We need to do a little bit of everything. But this year, the temperatures are a little cooler. It's been rainier, so perhaps we know it'll spike again, obviously. And it's also a fact that things are going in the right direction when it comes to reducing our emissions in France, but you wouldn't know it by listening to the news. So these are some of the reasons why Macron is extremely unpopular. People have a visceral reaction to him the same way, it's like the love-hate relationship. They loved him when they first saw him, and now they hate him for the same reasons. And it's really, really hard to get people who get a nasty reaction to him to consider the things that he's done that are going in the right direction. Anyway. So I'm going to end this the same way I started it. French people are not immune to stupid political siren songs from populists. And the one country that seems to be getting away from this is Spain. Spain, they had Franco for 40 years, of course. So they know exactly what this means. But yeah. Normally, I try to stay away from politics, but this week I really couldn't. My thanks to podcast editors Anne and Christian Codovan, who produced the transcripts. Next week on the podcast, an episode about adventures and misadventures in the City of Light with Paula Barnes. That was interesting. That was a really, really fun conversation. I think you will like it. And remember, patrons get an ad-free version of this episode for as little as $2 a month. click on the link in the show notes this episode to be like them. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you join me next time so we can look around France together. Au revoir. The Join Us in France Travel podcast is written, hosted, and produced by Annie Sargent and copyright 2024 by Addicted to France. It is released under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives license.